everyone. Welcome to the Future Scale podcast, a podcast that is created for specialists within the marketing field to share authentic stories. These stories will then enable anybody that is interested to be in the field to tackle life at the different stages in their lives. Today, I've got a wonderful, very smart lady by the name of Mandisa. Mandisa is in marketing. She is a very dynamic woman, and she's been in marketing for quite a long time. And it's been one of my wishes to actually have a sit down with her because I actually want to pick her brain. But more importantly, I also want to understand how she got to where she is, because it's not only about your career progression, but there's also a personal perspective that comes with one. So, Mandisa, thank you for sitting with me. And as with every, I think, engagement, and when you engage people that you don't know, the first thing to do would be to introduce yourself. So please introduce yourself and let the people know who you are, what you're about, and why you're here.
Thank you, Ntabi. Thank you for having me. And I don't know, your intro is like, ooh, dynamic, awesome.
I only sit with dynamic people. No, I'm joking.
I'm Mandisa Nkwanyana. I am the founder of Rubik's Media and Chief Strat Officer. And I've had people ask me why Strat Officer as opposed to CEO. And I'm a strategist at heart. I started my career years ago at the SABC. I've been in the media and marketing industry for 19. Hey, it's 20 years this year. It's actually 2024. Actually, for 20 years, started my career at the SABC, moved to YFM, moved to DSTV, moved to Viacom. So a huge part of my foundational career was in the broadcast space. And the roles that I played there was in research, analytics, not so much sales. So understanding the numbers, understanding the thinking, helping the sales teams package what we're trying to sell. So I've always been interested in the solution as opposed to, yeah, we've got DJ Smang Mang, this is a great show, but why is it a great show? How do we use the numbers to actually tell a story? How do we use the numbers to sell ourselves better? How do we use the numbers to help programming in determining what is the next strategy in the new year? So that's where my baseline career started. And then I was bold enough to join an agency. And you know how it is in our industry. It's either you are broadcast or the suits or the creatives or the media people. So then from that, I joined an agency, MediaCom, and I stayed at MediaCom for about almost 5 years. And even from this day I stepped in at MediaCom, I knew in my heart that building a long-term career in the industry is something I want to do, but not as an employee. So even walking in, my mind was set that after a certain time period, and in this instance was the year I turned 35, I'm actually going to venture out and start my own business. At that point, I wasn't really too clear exactly which space and how we're going to structure this business, but I already knew that it's not, one, impossible, and two, I don't want a long service award. I don't want a doorstop. I don't want to watch.
I knew
that. I knew that in my heart.
Long service award. I'm like, oh, I know quite a few people.
I knew that in my heart, and I think just to take it 2 steps back, wanting to do something of my own has always been. And when I have conversations, even with my parents, it's always been something that's been in me, right? I was that child who would be found in the garden talking to flowers because I've always been independent, wanting to chart my own path. I mean, when I was in first, second year, a friend of mine and I, we were bold enough to pitch for some World Cup work. And we got a small research job back then. I was 19 and Noah was 20. Got a small research job for the Ekurhuleni municipality. And I think that was my first taste of when you set your mind to it, you can actually do the stuff, right? You're still learning. There's still things that you're figuring out. But there's already things that you know that you can do. While I was working, I had a catering business called Pastries and Cream. We used to sell cupcakes and birthday cakes. One time for their children's birthdays used to come to us. So I think the itch for business has always been in me. It's just defining how and what it is I want to contribute to the business economy. And I say business economy, and I know we're having a marketing conversation, but we are a sector within a broader space. We are a sector that is critical to all kinds of business.
Yes.
And having that mindset also allows you to be able to finesse and find your passion in this broad space called marketing. So I've been running Rubik's. It will be 6 years in March this year. Will be 6 years in March this year. And prior to that, we had another business that we had started. But, the challenge is sometimes God puts an idea in your heart and then you invite the whole community and then the whole thing falls apart. And for me, that was my learning with our first initial media business that we started in 2017, because I've been out of the employed space for 7 years in total. When we started, I invited a friend along and it crumbled very quickly. And it's very easy to blame someone. Yes, Mang did this, Mang did that. But having to sit with yourself and your thoughts and the reality that this was your dream. Big as it is, hard as it is, you've never been in a formal business before. But just trust that you can do it. And along the way, you'll find people to help you in areas where you're not an expert. So that started, and that I took my learning from that. So I've been formally running Rubik's for the past 6 years. And we've had an amazing pleasure of working with different organizations. Initially, when we started, the business was called Rubik's Strategic Agency because I'm a strategist at heart, right?
Yes.
But then we decided, let's just finesse it and call it something sexy, and we literally just
box it.
Renamed it to Rubik's Media, and media being a space that I know at the back of my hand, and I'm really, really passionate about in the full context of media, whether it's from an agency perspective, from a broadcaster perspective, from an ownership perspective. There are so many different opportunities in that space. So our clients that we currently focus on are mostly B2B. We've got clients in the mining sector. We've got clients in the mining sector that are listed. We've got clients in the energy space. We've got clients in business rescue. Yeah, business rescue. If you need your business you can call me.
I know where to go.
And I gravitated mostly towards the B2B space because reality in Tabi, as we start out in the industry is really closed off.
Yes, it is.
It's really, really hard to get a door in. It's really, really hard getting those, global clients that you've always wanted to sink your teeth in. It's really, really difficult. And that's the reality. We talk transformation, but the reality on the ground, things are really, really different. So when you get in, and when I got in, it was this, I worked on telecom before at the agency. I worked on this. But as a standalone business, those clients don't even look your direction, right? Because on the one hand, you do have experience in personal experience.
But
however,
the brand that you want to put out there does not
have experience. Which is we'll tackle it later. But the reason why we ended up focusing on the space that we focus in is, again, you find a lot of the agencies focus on your more commercial brands, et cetera, and we just found a gap in the market. It was a bit of a journey because you meet clients that don't believe in marketing.
Very true.
You're right. They're getting business, they're getting deals. Why do we need this, right? But when you start the journey and they see the importance of marketing, not just only from talking to customers' point of view, but internally, how do you communicate? Who's your brand? How do you XYZ, right? So that's the space we found ourselves in. And because we're not a full service business, we've been very appreciative of our collaborative partners over the years. People that would say, look, man, I've got this job, this space is not my forte, come on board,
Come on board,
and
yeah.
vice versa. And I think, especially for small businesses, collaboration is literally the only solution for us to get further along the line. So that's me. I'm sure I've told you more. But apart from that, I am a mom to 3 children. My first eldest is my heart daughter. My brother passed away years ago, and his daughter is my heartborn, as we call her. And then I have a 14-year-old, just started high school this year. So can I stress? I think I need to invest in something metallic. And then I have a 7-year-old who's just started grade 1 this year. So there's a huge gap in terms of the kind of homework I have to get myself involved in. But other roles that I play in my life, I am the brand new president of the Business Women's Association. I've been, I've been part of the association since I started the business. And for me, especially for people that are listening that are thinking about starting, have just started, find a community that can support you.
Yes.
Because the other thing I learned, very painfully so, the people we used to sit in open plan with and have coffee breaks with are not there to support.
They're
and at the
not.
same time, and I mean, initially in the beginning, it used to hurt, right? But my friends know I've got a business, they must send stuff my way. Or they must support me and understand. But reality, when you move out of employment to entrepreneurship, it's 2 different worlds.
It's very
my
different,
issues
yes.
and the things that I face versus the things that my friends that are still in full-time employment face,
They don't
it's
understand
vastly
it.
different.
They don't understand
So
it,
being in a
yeah.
community of other entrepreneurs that have walked the path ahead of you, other entrepreneurs that know other things, critical things about how to run and grow a business became a very important area for me. And I joined the association in 2018. And I've been with them for the past few years. I'm also the chair of the Media and Communications sector, if you will, for the Women Economic Assembly. And the Women Economic Assembly's role in the South African economy, on the one hand, is to advocate for that minimum 40% procurement that should be set aside for you and me across all the sectors as determined by the DTIC. Where we are is a different story, but that's why we are here, right? And the other area is tackling the National Strategic Plan against GBV, which is Pillar 5, that says that when you empower women and you give them money in their hands and you give them agency, if they find themselves in a situation where they are economically abused, physically abused, they are able to leave those situations. Studies have shown that women that don't have the financial means end up staying.
It's true.
Because you think about your children, you think about
True.
where we're going to go, how we're going to survive, and you end up staying in very, very abusive situations. So that's the work we do.
And this is not
within-
only just from a personal perspective, but also from a career perspective.
Absolutely.
Because you find a lot to date. There are a lot of females that are staying in abusive spaces because they need that £5.
Absolutely.
You know, they have nowhere else to go.
Yeah. So those are the hats that I wear. And I'm a very, very junior golfer. Meaning I've just got golf clubs, that's it.
So you're not even a junior golfer.
For years,
you're just one of those people.
For years I was a golfer in my heart.
Oh.
I didn't have clubs.
Okay.
So now I've taken a
at least
decisive
there's
step forward.
There's
so that's
improvement. And then next thing, 6 months or 6 years later, you'll then have a handicap.
Yeah, maybe someone will sponsor me with some lessons. But yeah, that's me. That's me in a very long nutshell. Thanks, Tabi.
You've mentioned quite a lot of things around your career, but it's something that I don't want to engage you deeply on right now because I want you to picture 20 little me's. So it's maybe not even just little me. So let's say there's about 3 7-year-old, not even 4-year-olds. There are 3 10-year-olds, there are 13-year-olds, leading to a 35-year-old, right, who are really, really interested in your life and who are seeking some form of gem that will help them understand the space that they are in,
Yeah.
whether 7 or 35,
Yeah.
that will also help them understand where they want to go. They have an inkling that maybe they want to get into a marketing space, right? But they're not really sure about it. So there's a belief that when one shares their story, it enables one to make clearer decisions. When you're young, you carry that story with you, which enables you to, one, make some form of decision that will work for you. Two, be able to give you that, I don't know, the energy, the strength,
Inspiration.
inspiration to continue with whatever you want to do, purely because you remember that
That story.
on a particular day, this person shared their story with me. And I resonated with the 7-year-old, that person. And right now, this person is actually conquering the world. And based on what you've just said now, I mean, you sit on boards, you run your own agency. Somebody wants to be there, right? But we want to understand what the story is. So tell me what your story is.
Tell 4-year-old Tabby and
Yes.
and myself, really, right? Because there's I I I would have loved for someone to share something with me at age 4, 7, 13, 14, etc. But there's certain things that we then reflectively start telling our younger selves, right? But for me, I think the golden thread, regardless of age, because obviously the lessons get deeper and more complex
Absolutely.
the older you go. But I'll start at this point, and this is not just going to the younger people I'm talking to, it's going to the older people in the story, is I have amazingly supporting parents, right? And I think that is where the basis of the curiosity, the nothing is impossible, that you can do whatever you want, you can be free, because we were not boxed in, if you will. We grew up in an environment where I'm the youngest of 4. And I think when my siblings hear this, they'll be like, yeah, that's your story, because it's not,
That's exactly it. Because
it's not our story,
we
right?
grow under the same roof, but our stories
experiences
are very different.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think because I came in right at the end, these people are older, they're mellower.
They're tired.
They were stricter and a little bit more, channeling where the other careers were going, right? But not strictly so. But I was in an opportune position to have a picture of my life and dictate how I wanted it to go, right? I know my mom did not understand why on earth I need to go and do this marketing thing. I remember my dad's sister passed away years ago, and Tembi Begati sends my kids niece. Like, no, auntie, marketing, and
I've never heard that before.
but think about it. We come from a space where our parents were doctors, lawyers, nurses, teachers.
That's it.
Right.
Yes.
There wasn't a vastness and an openness of the things that we could do, and because of the opportunities that were afforded to me by my parents, I was able to be exposed to a wider world. I went to school at St. Dominic's from grade 1 until I think grade 3, and then I went to grade 5. But just being in an environment that opens up your mind, allows you to think differently from the community that you currently live in, where every second house is a nurse, a policeman, a traffic cop. Do you know what I mean? So just going back to a young person, and I think I mentioned it earlier, I was that kid who was just different. I talk to flowers, I do things. There is something in all of us that we inherently know. We may not be able to articulate it clearly. We may not be able to put a pin that one day, because of this thing in me, I am going to be a leader of a country, for example. But there's a voice that, as you grow older, it gets stronger and stronger. I've always been interested in the way the world works. I've always been curious about putting things together, and I think that's where the strat part of me comes out. But it was clearly articulated in high school, right? The inquisitiveness, the wanting to understand how the world works. When I was young, I was convinced I want to be a vet, I want to be a scientist, I want to solve some problems, you know? I remember my parents buying me a microscope set with like real live specimens, and you could,
I think I remember those sets.
the way my brain was structured, I want to put things apart, put them together, come up with a new solution. Fast track to high school, my favorite English teacher, I think it was Mr. Hamilton, English, and he took us for English and history. But again, just thinking, putting things together. Come grade 10, which was standard 8 for us. It's exposing my age. Come grade 10, we were asked to do a marketing project for English, right? We did this marketing project, and it was an individual project. Did everything. And at that point, I had already chosen all the sciences. I did math, science, computer studies, biology. I also did business just in case, you know, as an extra. But even that, retrospectively, when I took Biz Ec for no reason, I did 7 subjects. I was like, I'm just curious, but look where it led me to. But going back to now, you're younger, there's this thing inside of you. Try and understand your own mind and how it works. You may not have the answer for the career, but the characteristics of how your mind operates leads you in certain paths, right? With the way my mind operated and wanting to solve problems, there's many careers I could have gone into. But where fast track to 16, where it kind of clicked that I want to solve problems, but in a creative way, and use this passion that I have for English to actually start building something for myself. And that's where I was introduced to the world of advertising, communications, and marketing by my then English teacher, who took my project and was blown over and was like, have you ever thought about doing advertising? And I didn't even know there was the likes of AAA and. I already planned that come matric, I'm going to WITS, I'm doing BCom, science, general stream, because I'm still trying to figure out what kind of scientist I need to be, right? So that it literally shifted my mindset completely. So the shock to my parents now, all of a sudden, how marketing now,
marketing,
you know what's happening. But again, going back to understanding these things that you're really passionate about. I went then in my 20s, well, after high school, went to AAA. But even there, how do I use this? Because I could have gone the creative route and do graphic designing. I could have done copywriting. I could have done anything else. But I went for the media side of things because what I liked, I remember the textbook that we had was Media as an Art and Science by, I think, Ludi Kukumur was the one that wrote the book. Media as an Arts and Science. And again, because of me and understanding, putting all these worlds that I've been passionate about together, I was just drawn to that space. So I did marketing with specializing in media, and progressively it's moved that way. And even when you start getting into the world of work, again, first space, we were at SABC doing our internship. Could have gone to branding, could have worked for this radio station side of things. But I gravitated towards the market analysis team, which is doing the research and the understanding. The advice I want to and not advice. The story I want to share with a younger person, a person in their teens, and especially teens, because they are the space where you're really figuring yourself out. You've got all these other influences, and it's okay to be different. It's okay to talk to flowers. It's okay not to be the popular girl, because when you really go inward and focus really on these things that drive you, that you're passionate about, that other people don't really understand, you are able to start formulating a story for yourself, a pathway for yourself. A lot of the people that I knew in high school ended up in careers that were dictated to them. A lot of other people that we've met along the way, found themselves in marketing much later because the person that was funding them, i.e. parents, wanted them to go a certain way. But your core being and your core purpose has always been there. It's just being able to start putting the pieces together and crystallizing it. Obviously, when you're younger, I'll make an example with my daughter because you're making me go very, very far back.
I want you to go there because they are people that need that right
very,
now.
very far back. I'll make an example with my daughter. She's very creative, but she's also very academic. She's already said she wants to do marine biology, but she's also an avid artist. As a parent, I'm supporting both dreams and saying, one is not mutually exclusive of the other. You can do both. You can do both. And who knows that in your pursuit of marine biology and fusing it with this art, something brand new will come in the future.
Innovation of some sort.
Do you know what I mean? So it's being open to receiving all this information, but tying it honestly to who you are deep on the inside. Because one thing I've learned about myself throughout my entire life, who I am deep on the inside hasn't changed. The direction, the finessing, how it gets presented, how it gets packaged, and this is talking from a me perspective, that has, molded itself and changed over the years and over time and according to the time and space where you are in your life, right? But you are who you are. And just going back to what I was saying about the Business Women's Association and the Women Economic Assembly, I was that child and I'm that child that grew up a little bit pre-94. I would be in banks fighting with people because they were rude to my dad, right? And telling them, it's not right. This is not how you speak to someone. You found us here, Mr. Van Vieren. Please go back to the back of the queue. My dad would be so embarrassed and say he's not taking me to the shops anymore because But that activism spirit has always been in me. But later I found a pathway to actually share it without burning down bridges,
Yes.
and without tires on the streets. Because at the end of the day, whatever we are given can be used whichever way, positively or negatively.
Yes.
It's just being able to understand who you are and finding people along the way, because there's no story about Mandisa 4, 7, 13, 35, 50 without people along the way. There are people that God and life brings to our path that see this golden gem and the light that is in you and these seeds that are planted, and they help you nurture it. So the biggest thing for me, and just as a parting shot, because we can really talk about this part for a while, is you know who you are. Other people see who you are. Ask for the right people to see who you are so they can help you along the way.
Journey.
Yeah.
That's deep. It's very deep. So just on that story, there are quite a few things that I picked up, but I just have a question. So we touched on, or rather you touched on, the younger person and the seed that is sown in that person, and for that person to be aware of it and get people that will help in nurturing that seed to grow, right? Which is very important. Then there's another stage being the teenage stage,
Yes.
where one is also very confused about who they are, where they want to be. They might be interested in arts, but maybe the family doesn't really believe in that, because you still do find families that actually don't believe in marketing. What are you doing? You're making pretty pictures. There's some people that used to say to us when I was in the suit era, where people would describe marketing as you're just putting pretty flowers on a table, or putting pretty pictures on a presentation slide. And then there are people that are actually have studied this discipline of marketing, and theory and practical are very different. You find that Ntabi Singh has studied her marketing, and she's gone all the way. She's got her honors and masters. Now she's getting into the world of work. And the world of work is very different from having a Professor ABC
Yes.
who believes in you and sees the dynamic individual that you are, and getting into just a zoo, in inverted commas, a zoo where you are just a number. How does one, just from a marketing perspective, right? How does one make sure that they remain authentic to themselves as a marketer, whatever specialization you're in? How does one make sure that in the world of work, you make the difference that you are hired to make? How does one make sure that within that zoo, you stand out without necessarily painting your hair or spraying your hair purple to be different from those people? Because obviously when you're in a particular environment, they are guiding lines of how you can function within that. How do you then just highlight those three things?
Okay.
Help me on this journey.
World of work, right? And I'll go back to very early in my career, and that is and this is literally for someone that is about to enter, right? Very early in my career, I'll use SABC and YFM as an example. SABC was peculiar and fantastic in a way, right? And I'm thankful for the experience. We were at Radio Park, and I was in the market analysis department. And I'm using this example because I also want to throw it out to, and going back to the example that, your professor thought you were the bee's knees. This is reality, right? Work is not just about what you know, what you studied. Work is about human connection. Work is about humility. Work is about being a team player. Work is about doing menial tasks that you think you and your PhD are not good for. When we started the SABC in our internship, and I think it really was by design, and I think it's something that has fallen away over the years because, HR policies, people, but it's things that have fallen away over the years. And I think it's really critical for young people entering into any space, marketing, whatever business you're entering into, to understand that there's a human ecosystem that operates here, right? It's like getting married and arriving in people's families and wanting them to dance to your tune. It doesn't work that way. There's a system here. There's a way things work here. And if you want to be a thriving and positive contributor to the system, learn the system. And when you learn the system, you also know the gaps in the system, right? And that's going to come to point two. So when we started, we went in, we were excited, triple A, we know our stuff. We got there, we literally, for lack of a better word, were the skivvies. Right? And if you only look at it from the perspective of a skivvy, you don't even realize that you go to meetings that you're not supposed to go to.
Correct.
You're just there to make sure that there's coffee and muffins, but if you're only focusing on the fact that
With
you
the
are
coffee
supposed to
and
make sure
muffin.
that there's muffins and coffee,
You're missing
you're
out.
missing out on the bigger picture, right? So, and to be honest, it's a human thing. The first 2-3 meetings, I was like, yo, can't coffee, meeting, boardrooms, and all that stuff. But as you start listening to the conversation, because now you're also sitting on the side because you're a junior, you're not sitting on the main boardroom table.
A seat
But
at
when
the
you
table.
apply your mind and you listen and you realize that I shouldn't actually be here. I should be sitting at my desk typing the minutes from this meeting, but I'm actually
In
here.
it. Yes.
There's a bigger learning here. So a starting point, everything that not everything that looks like a rock is a rock. There's a diamond in there. Be patient enough to dig and understand what is the diamond in here.
The mindset
and
thing.
be humble enough to learn the world of work. It's not just about your smarts. It's not just about, you passed cum laude. There's a system, there's a hierarchy, there's steps to progression that you need to make sure that you learn early on, understand early on. Because when you do that, you know where the gaps are. And that comes to point number 2. How do you stand out? You can't get there and find 500 other Ntabi sayings whose professors also thought they were the bee's knees and they also passed cum laude. And you think that's your only gate in. Controversial as it is, your skin color is not the gate in.
Yeah.
That's a compliance HR thing that
Yeah.
if they are
Tick
doing the
box.
right thing in the business,
Yeah.
they better be doing the right thing. Because that's a compliance element, that's a business honesty element. It's not your problem. Your gender, even though we've got other fights in that space and there's bodies that advocate for us to actually have spaces and build these tables and have the seat, those 3 things are not the reason why you're going to shine. So going back to who you are, what you possess that I have that Ntabi doesn't have, that is uniquely yours. So
Second part.
So baseline, I'll call them demographic factors, are not the thing that's going to get you ahead, right? The thing that will get you ahead is understanding your real purpose for doing what you're doing, right? Why are you there? Let's say you got a job at Coca-Cola. Yes, you were shortlisted and it's fantastic and you said all these wonderful things in the interview, right? What was your end goal for really honestly wanting this job? It cannot be just to be the marketing director and just to get a good salary, right? And I'm using this example because, and I like what you said earlier, people don't take us seriously. I mean, we used to have a rolling joke, marketers don't save the world, but that's a lie.
It's alive.
That's a lie because it's one of the most critical sectors that touch on every single sector.
Yes, every single one.
Right now
Yeah.
we're going to elections. Let's see what they'll do without marketing. Right now you've got a startup business you're launching. Let's see what you'll do without marketing.
Yes.
Right now you've got a crisis on your mind. The miners are striking. Let's see what you'll do without the marketing and communication personnel that you need to actually help that situation. And I also want to throw this out to the business world in a sense that it's sad that when things go bad, that's our line item is the one that gets reduced, right?
Always.
But our line item is
critical
critical
one.
in being able to sustain, grow, whatever objectives your business is. And I love the fact that over the years we've seen roles like chief marketing officer
yes.
and the specialization, therefore, of our space, right? And I also have a challenge that the department, I think it's Home Affairs, has said that one of the critical skills shortage in South Africa is marketing, which tells me that there's a lot of us that are doing the same thing, that are in copycat roles,
Yes.
that are happy to just get that amazing title and job,
impact.
but where is the impact?
Yes,
Right.
no impact.
And the impact, going back to how you stand out, it won't come from your CV. The impact comes from the things that you are really, really, really passionate about. The things that even if you were to walk out of company X tomorrow, those are the things that drive you. Those are the things that even if you were, I'll make an example about myself. I'm really passionate about strategy and helping not only myself, but helping businesses solve certain problems, obviously within my discipline of comms, marketing, and etc. Right? But having that skill set, I can step into any other space and help solve
Yeah,
the problem.
a problem.
And harnessing that one particular skill set helps me stand out from other people. Yeah, fine, maybe we don't have awards. Maybe other people be like, yo, who's Rubik's
Yay!
Media? Hey, they're probably going to Google me, right? But in the space that I operate in and the businesses that we've helped and the impact that we've
Yeah.
made, I know
fact, it
I am
starts with
actually
you.
contributing
Yeah.
something that I'm personally passionate about. And I think over the years it's also been another area, and I don't want to call it luck. I'll call it being blessed, and the blessing comes from being intentional about harnessing this particular skill because it's inherently in me. And even the young people that work for me, that's what I look for. I don't want people I'm going to hold hands because ain't nobody hold my hand in my entire career. Thank you to all my ex-bosses. Thank you. I didn't understand in the beginning. I really didn't understand why my managers and my bosses were so hard. But I'm very thankful. I actually had coffee with let's call it coffee for the podcast.
Yeah.
Last Thursday with an ex-boss turned friend of mine, and I was telling her that, I am so thankful for you being so hard on us.
Yeah.
Because very early in our career, we knew how to enter a room.
Yeah.
Especially as brown and black people.
Yeah.
Don't make a mistake because yours lasts for even longer than other people.
Than you can,
especially as a woman, people think you're fluffy. So I'm very thankful that she was really, really hard on us right there when we were in our early 20s because it really helped to shape. So even to young people entering, there's someone who you'll think, Ntabi Singh doesn't like me. I don't know what I'm doing here. But Ntabi Singh sees something in you. And she's not going to let you go until she can help you shape it because she sees this gold in you. And gold doesn't come out easy, guys. Yeah.
So I want to just pause on that thing because, there's positive reinforcement, right? And there is negative reinforcement.
Yeah.
So as somebody that has just listened to you right now, who feels that I'm really, really passionate about this field, and I believe where I am, I will make an impact. However, I'm working with somebody who is, the topical thing right now is toxic.
Yes.
So when you say that my boss was so hard on me, but I'm only appreciating it now years later because it was to my benefit, I think it's important for you to
clarify,
and differentiate. Yes. When is it? And I think it also brings your board role into play. When is it that one can see the signs out? These are potential positive reinforcements.
Yeah.
And right here, this is really toxic, and I think I need to just bow out gracefully
and call it a day. And thank you for that clarification. Guys, we come from old school. There was no toxic. It was easy. But just to clarify, when in my context, when I talk about hard, hard in terms of, and I know I'm using horrible English right now, unapologetic with quality work, unapologetic with bringing out the best in us, even if we had to do it 5 times over, right? But never at a personal level abusive, never at a personal level bringing any of us down. I mean, this is and I'm going to use her in particular as an example because I spent a greater part of my early career at DSTV with her, and till this day, I mean, one of the things I'll make a very easy, understandable example. You know, when you make pie charts, because we like being creative and we like being cool, and you know, we young people must express ourselves. Pie chart number 1, BMW is green, Audi is orange, Mercedes is black. Pie chart number 2, bar chart, BMW is now black.
How?
You know, and I'm making a very simple but practical example. Someone that teaches you that you need to build a story in someone's mind.
Yes.
You know this presentation back and forth, but you need to help someone understand the flow, right?
Golden thread.
Your fonts, your balancing. You can't have Arial here and Calibri there. Just and it's small but really big things, especially when you get further down in your career. It's small but big things, especially for us in comms and marketing and things like that, right? It's mundane things when you really think about it. And you've gone through 67 slides and you have to start again, right? Leave work late. But it's that when you know that this person's actions and asking you to go the extra mile, pushing you further, really when you look at it at a core level without what's the word I'm looking for? Without complaining, because it's easy to complain, right? She made me do it 100 times. But is it beneficial to you doing it 100 times? Or this person is just being nasty? And that's where you know the balance. And I think as humans with emotional intelligence, you can also feel it. You can also feel it. I've never, and thankfully, throughout my entire career, I've never in any single space I have stepped in where I've been employed, woken up on a Monday morning and never wanted to go there.
You are one of the fortunate people.
It's never happened. Part of it is also understanding my role in this whole thing, right? Understanding your role. And in instances where I knew that the journey had come to an end, I made the decisions to start looking and start exploring other avenues. But the journey never ended because it was horrible. And I do understand there's a variety of workspaces where, and especially us as women as well, where, you know, you become a threat for whatever reason to whoever and etc. Right? But for me, you draw the line on abuse. You draw the line on being belittled. You draw the line on, you know, every other break you in the bathroom crying. When it starts eating on really inherent, and I'll keep going back to who you really are on the inside, because guys, at the end of the day, what matters is who we are on the inside. When it starts eating on those areas, then you need to do something about it. And at the same time, honestly, guys, it's every space, in every workspace, it's a relationship, guys. All these things are two-sided. All the time. All the time. I had a young person work for me when we started, and I'm sure she thought I was the most horrible, because I'm like, dude, work starts at 8:30. I'm not asking for, I mean, it's in your contract, it's in the rules, work starts at 8:30.
It's what you're
But it was so
preached to.
terrible because I don't understand. She comes so far, but take responsibility for some of the things that we want to quickly call as toxic, right? And I'm talking to this very new generation that is very different from us. It's very easy calling out all these things because you've read up on them on Twitter. I mean, my daughter knows, I'm sure she knows all kinds of psychological terms because they're exposed to this stuff. But I also caution her to stop owning things that are not hers.
That's true.
Stop owning this thing that you saw on TikTok and you're trying to patch it. Because I think this is what's happening to me. It's not. it is something out there, but that's not what's happening to you. Your friends are not toxic. You the mean girl, actually.
Introspect.
You are actually the mean girl. So it's finding that balance. And guys, honestly, investing in emotional intelligence, very, very critical on all sides. So just to wrap it up, there. Emotional intelligence is a critical skill. I don't know if it can be taught, but I'm sure it can.
It can.
You
Yeah,
can.
there are courses.
You can. But it's very important, and taking responsibility in your part of the relationship, it will help you in good stead if one day you are also the senior person, if one day you also run your own business, if one day you also sit on a variety of other organizations. It will help you along the journey, because everything that you are currently going through now as a young person entering the world of work, a new manager starting a new role, everything that you go through is building you up for the next role. So emotional intelligence is critical across the board. Yeah, I hope I've answered everything.
You have.
Thank
you
you.
have. And you've given it a bit of depth. We've spoken about personality things. We've spoken about emotional things. I think it's important for us to also just probably pick your brain a little bit about your view on the current day marketing, your view on, aspects of influencer marketing. Are we doing it right? What would be the direction that we would need to take? And also your view on us as marketing, patting each other on the back by giving each other awards, whereas the quality of work that we might be producing is not necessarily based on solving a particular problem. Right? We're just creating communication for the sake of it. So there's no, like you had mentioned before, and this is a hypothetical thing, Jay. There is no research and in-depth understanding of why we have this problem and what are the gaps for us to solve it.
Here, where we are. And I think you relate better. 2023 came, and an influx of new tech in the form of AI came. And I mean, some of us that have been in the industry for a very long time, I mean, we were there early days when, Facebook was a thing, and now we were starting to include it in our plans. YouTube was a thing. Now there was budget for YouTube spend and etc. And I think over the years, the industry has progressively moved in a positive direction in terms of being able to place, and I'll use my space as a media person, place brands in the face of consumers on the platforms that they are. But what I also find challenging when we talk present day South Africa and where we at, because it's an influx of so many businesses in our space, and particularly in the social media space. Everybody who's got Facebook is a social media agency. You have you've got a WhatsApp and you post stories to your WhatsApp, it means you're a social media marketer. But fundamentally, everything we do, whether it's PR, comms, influencer marketing, direct marketing, whatever the discipline or the solution, if you will, if it isn't underpinned by a clear goal in mind, it's all just fluff. We are in the age of gimmick marketing, and I'll say this, not all of us guys, some of us, have, I mean, there are really amazing and strong agencies out there. But the other problem that we're also facing on this side of brands that are able to invest in that quality, there's a wonderful match. And then you get brands that really, really need this quality, but they don't believe in the investment.
Correct.
And then they end up with the fluff. They end up with some gimmicky stuff online. And I think for me, I want to throw it out to both sides of the coin when we look at our industry, the people that send money our way and us that deliver solutions for them. Especially when you're looking at medium to growing businesses, because you've got the likes of the Coca-Colas, the BMWs, some people that are really doing an amazing job because they've had years of experience. They hire agents and they invest in it, right? Because they know fundamentally the importance of this particular area in delivering certain elements to their business and their bottom line. So for me, it's there's a lot of changes. There's a lot happening, and I don't want to delve too much in the influencer marketing space because I'm one of those guilty ones. When we were working on in my MediaCom days, when we were working on Always and Revlon, it wasn't something I really supported personally. I've seen brands gravitate that way because they just felt that a certain person has got a certain pull card, but we're also in the age of hyper awareness.
Yep.
We know that this person is bought. And I don't want to make an example of a brand, but now that we're talking influencer marketing, there's nothing as silly as seeing a young influencer, the A-list influencers, sitting with a bottle of beer. She doesn't drink. She
doesn't drink, yes.
You can't fool us.
Yes.
Right? So where's the authenticity? And actually going back to the age of telling quality stories, guys. Stories resonate. Stories are long-lasting. I remember last year when I went to a talk with Salga, I pulled up that Telkom Yebo Mhlobo Wam,
it has lasted for generations.
Just to kick off my talk about the role of communication. The actual tool you're using has changed, but you still want to communicate
and connect.
But where is the authenticity and the connection, right? So I think I'm gonna pause there with influencers because maybe I had a client that wanted to give me.
I actually don't want you to pause on it because you've touched on the essence of really why I have these conversations, and that is storytelling.
Yes.
And telling those stories in the most authentic way that is able to resonate with people and that becomes a legacy.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Now, I mean, you've touched on this influencer thing, and people that as you said, with that little girl, she's holding a bottle of alcohol, and this is not it. It's so obvious.
Yeah.
It reminds me of what's currently happening right now with that Snoop Dogg. I don't know if you know it.
Where he said he stopped smoking.
He quit smoking. I don't know.
But
I have thoughts about it, and I've shared my thoughts about it. But I'm also interested to find out, from your perspective, what went right, what didn't go right, because somebody lost their job there.
And funny for me, when I initially saw it, it didn't feel like a campaign, which is magical.
Okay, that's
because
good.
That is exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to draw you in. It's supposed to pique your interest. It's supposed to make you actually follow this person and say, Snoop, quit smoking. Oh my word. So I think it's that, and I know and I don't know the backstory as to why the particular person lost their job. Or maybe
conversions. So I think what they did before, when they sold the pitch to the investors or whatever it is, they probably, and this is my suspicion, they probably said to them, when we get Snoop on, who costs millions and millions, we are guaranteed deconversions, because I think their growth rate was between 3% and 5% on an annual basis. And at some time they stayed a little bit stagnant, so they needed to push it up, closer to their financial year end. So I think the promises that were made behind the curtains probably resulted in this thing.
So I told you about my initial reaction, which got us talking, buzzing.
Correct.
I mean, I never follow Snoop Dogg on Instagram. I started when I heard that he's quitting smoking. I'm like, Havana, what's happening? However, and this is personal Mandisa, not marketer Mandisa. This is a person that you were trying to sell this smokeless grill to. When I saw what he was selling, I was like,
But I'm interested.
personal relationship was like,
Yeah.
right? And that's where fit, guys.
Very important.
Fit, brand fit, right? Because at the same time, it's almost like you lied to sell us something, whereas they could have probably done it differently. I don't know.
Yeah.
And again, using. Okay, let's not go into the cannabis story. Let's leave it there.
It's legal.
But I think more than anything, and I like what you're mentioning with regards to investors, promises, conversions, etc. What we did very well from an SABC point of view, because obviously we needed to sell packages, channels, etc. Numbers, right? Understanding how numbers can help sell a product. When you jump over to agency side, like I did, numbers were still very critical. But sitting with the marketing team on brand side and telling them that marketing can only solve up to dot
Certain
X.
points. Yeah.
And before we solve up to dot X, what informed your budgets? What informed your objectives? What informed these ridiculous targets that the investors want? Because if you want us to do that, we can't just do this one little campaign and wish for magic, right? All the numbers need to speak to the real goals that you're going for. So I think for me, and I don't know, I'll just talk for me, that is always the starting point. Someone comes and says, I've got this budget. I tell them straight up, babes, I can only do this for you.
Yeah.
Because based on what you're putting on the table, based on the results that you're trying to gun for, the investment doesn't match.
Yeah.
Right? And I think we get so excited, put all these ideas together for clients. We want to be the bee's knees. But if your numbers were flawed from the word go, you will not get results. And I wonder if most of us in the industry are still spending time, energy, resources on really, really understanding not only the space that your clients' brands operate in, the sector that your actual client operates in, the audiences that you are really, really talking to, and then coming to real analytical decisions. Because I really feel that somewhere along the line, we've just been so pressured to, deliver, without doing the due diligence behind the scenes to make sure that what we commit, we can actually deliver.
And just to add on to that, I think it's also very important for us when we are in those boardrooms and we're pitching to highlight that it's not only marketing's job to convert.
No.
Right? No. Everybody needs to jump on board. You have a sales team that is supposed to close that deal. I bring in all the numbers that you want, but I need these people to also close it off. You can't expect me to bring it in and then close it off immediately. What does the other part of the business? Yes,
process,
there's a full funnel.
Yeah.
There. So it's very important to also consider that. I think we are running out of time, and there's so much that I want to talk about because I think we've only just
touched the surface.
Touched the surface, exactly. That's exactly what I was looking for. But from a personal perspective as well, if you were to write a brief about your life, what would that brief look like? What would be so obviously it's your strategy. What would be the overarching thing? Yeah, your strategy. What would be the key message of your ad or your movie or whatever it is? What would be the tactics that you adopt?
About my life.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll start here. So I'll pretend there's a book about my life, right? And the brief to an agency that has been assigned to get me out there. One, the people that I want to read this book about me, the book of me, is primarily women. Primarily women. Primarily women, but I think very importantly, women, young girls, females in general, because the story of me has been a story not only in my career, the book will also touch on other areas of my personal life that we didn't go in depth with. But it's the story of the importance of understanding our importance in the world, right? It's the story of fighting for, and I don't want to say recognition, but fighting
Acknowledgement.
for your place. And I don't want to say your place in the world because we are already in the world, but fighting for this area that you have demarcated. So it would really be a book about, you are in the space, you were called to the space. There was not a mistake for you to be there. Your job is to flourish and fly and make sure that nobody comes with an axe and chops down that tree. Where I would want this book of me to find, space and a home, and this now we're talking distribution channels and where people can find it. I'm old school, guys. You need to flip that book, sit in a coffee shop. So focused more on supporting young Black-owned bookshops, making sure that it's found there. The launch happening in those spaces, the road show happening at those varsities for people that are still trying to figure themselves out, for the book to be available, in spaces where women in business and women in the world of work can actually pick it up and also find a piece of themselves there. So corporate road shows, making sure that the HR lady puts it in the Women's Month pack. So more practical ways of actually getting the story out there. I'm not, and I want to say this, and I know it sounds weird because we are in the space that we're in. I'm not big on the front end of the scene, but it's important to be able to find space in the front end of the scene. So a very strong communications and PR agency behind me, making sure that we are able to share these stories on a variety of platforms, especially on African owned radio station platforms, because it's another area where I always push my clients, to say we live in a country where even though they understand English, speak to people in their own language. They get it, they understand it, and they connect with you. So being able to get it as far and wide as possible. And I think I've covered all your questions, right?
I think
you've covered. I've covered it. But I think at the core of it, anyone who is marketing the Book of Mandisa or putting it out there, whether it's creative agency, etc., the key message, as mentioned, and I want to use, and I love using this quote, and I'll close it after this. The key message and how they can build the narrative of the key message of this book that is out there in your marketing brand, Mandisa, is that Thomas Sankara says that when you develop a developmental project without the participation of women, it's like using 4 fingers when you have 10. So any developmental project that doesn't involve women, you are using 4 fingers instead of 10. And I think that's the message I want to put out in the world, especially with the roles that I play, that I mentioned earlier in my business. The people that also come in and work for us, is that we cannot do this alone. The world needs diversity. The world needs both masculine and feminine thinking to do beautiful work. And us that are the six fingers that are out of the conversation, we need to work harder. We need to push harder. We need to make sure that our voices are heard in whatever spaces that we play in, and especially in our families, because that is where we start grooming other people that can take the journey forward. Because in time, we're not going to accomplish half the things that we need to do in this lifetime. But being able to share that story, someone else is able to take the baton and run with it because you made an impact in their life. And that's what I want the book to be about.
I'm not even going to say anything else. I won't even. I firmly believe that we need to have another session, and that's going to happen soon, dependent on your diary.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that we need to talk about. And I think people just need to just watch this and also keep an open space that there is a little bit of depth that we will go into with the other episodes that are to come or the other chapters, because all we do is tell stories. So this is the first chapter of our story. So to close it off, thank you.
No, thank you.
This was really great, and time just went by so quickly. There's a part of me that feels robbed a bit, but because we always like to solutionize, there is chapter 2 that's coming. But I really appreciate you sitting with me and telling your authentic story. But within that authentic story, there were so many teachable moments. And good luck with everything. And once again, congratulations on being appointed.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for watching. Look out for chapter 2.